Here we have a sewing machine that we're going to install the bobbin in. This is an embroidery only machine, but it doesn't matter. If your bobbin has the same size top and bottom, you can put this bobbin in both ways. Flip it over, it still goes back in there. On drop-in bobbins, it's important when you pull the thread, which you should make a habit of, put our bobbin cover plate on. And incidentally, the emblems on a lot of these machines are going to be right around the bobbin area, which will show you the direction that the thread needs to come off of your bobbin. So make sure you pay special attention to that. On this machine, to install the bobbin, you can put it in two different ways because the bobbin diameter on this side of the bobbin and the diameter of this side of the bobbin are exactly the same. So you can actually put this in, like I say, two different ways. There's clockwise, which is opposite of the normal sewing direction that you need to put a drop-in bobbin into a drop-in bobbin case. So this shows that if you pull on the thread, it would be turning counterclockwise. So if we flip that over and we pull a little bit of thread, you see it's turning counterclockwise. Now that emblem matches that emblem. Some of these emblems are going to be on top of the bobbin cover plate. But that shows you how to put it in. If you put it in opposite its normal rotation, what happens is your thread can walk out of your bobbin case thread tension. So if we put it in that way, that's not the correct way to put it in there. But we're going to go ahead and pull this thread around. Let's thread our needle. And we're going to pick up our bobbin thread. So right now, if you notice, our thread is over the top of the bobbin. So our thread is in, our bobbin thread is in the tension of our bobbin case. We know that because we can see the thread over here. The problem is because this is coming with this rotation, the thread is coming this direction. And if the bobbin hangs at all or the thread gets snapped, from fast sewing or anything like that, what happens is this thread can walk right out over here. What it's going to look like if your bobbin thread is not in the bobbin thread tension, you'll see it's coming out underneath the back of the bobbin. So as I'm pulling on this thread, there is zero tension on the thread. So what that's going to lead to, if you have zero tension on your bobbin thread, you're going to get loops on the top side of the fabric. So to show you what I mean, we're going to go ahead and put our foot on. Bobbin cover plate on, and then we're going to do a seam here. Okay, so if you notice, you see a lot of white on the top. That's the bobbin thread. And if you look over here on the bottom side, you don't see any of the black thread, which is the top thread, actually coming through to the bottom. And these stitches are actually kind of loose. You can kind of see they're a little bit loose there. So that means you have no tension on your bobbin case. So we're going to do another seam right alongside it with our bobbin case installed our bobbin installed correctly in our bobbin case, so that you can see the difference. We will sew right alongside it. And if you look at these two examples, this is a perfect seam. That's with the bobbin installed correctly. This is not a perfect seam. So you see the bobbin thread coming up to the top. If we turn them over, we have the seam that's loose and sloppy on the bottom. That's the bobbin with no bobbin thread tension. Bobbin was installed incorrectly. And this is a perfect seam, and you can just barely see the top thread in between the stitches, and that's the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be able to see the top thread from the bottom and the bottom thread from the top. That gives you your tightest seam. So perfect seam, not a perfect seam. So it's important that you see the thread over the top of the bobbin, and if we look, you will see right here the thread over the top of the bobbin itself. That's telling us that the thread is in the bobbin thread tension. Well, I hope this helps.